Hey everyone, it's CL with my January reading wrap-up. I wasn't quite sure whether or not I wanted to do a reading wrap-up for January, only because I feel like I'm talking about the same books every time, like in my hauls and in my TBRs, and then if I don't get to them as I plan to when I lay out my TBR, then I am talking about them again when I finally do finish them. So I wasn't sure whether or not I should do a wrap-up, but I decided that I'm going to go ahead and do a wrap-up, even if it's a really quick one. So yes. So one of the books I read for January is Monster. You probably have seen this before many times in my videos. This is by Naoki Urasawa. This is a really great manga series that I'm really enjoying. It's about a doctor who saves a young boy's life. But it turns out that that young boy grows up to be a serial killer. So years later, there are a string of murders happening, and all the evidence points to the murderer being the doctor. So there's these policemen really trying to track him and arrest him and catch him for this crime. But the doctor knows that the real serial killer is the young boy who is now grown up. So he's trying to capture him. So yeah, I really enjoyed this series. I plan on continuing it. It is really gripping and suspenseful. I think if you like suspenseful books and mangas, you will like this one. The next book that I read is The Raven Boys by Maggie Steve Otter. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with this book. You probably have seen it on other booktuber channels. It's pretty popular amongst the community. I finally got around to reading volume 1, and you know, I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I gave Monster 4 stars as well, by the way. This story is about a girl named Blue. She comes from a family of psychics, but she herself is not a psychic. But when people with those abilities are around her, it enhances their powers. So somehow, some way, her destiny is entwined with someone else's named Gansey, and Gansey is part of the Raven Boys. Him and his group of friends, they are searching out these ley lines, and they're trying to find something rooted in Gansey's past, and you'll know more about that when you read the book, so I don't want to spoil it too much. What stood out to me with this book is their close friendships that the guys have with each other. I really like that camaraderie. And yeah, it's really adventurous. If you like paranormal, you will enjoy this book. The next book I read is Pegasus Olympus at War by Kate O'Hearn. I'm not going to talk too much about this one because this is volume 2. I've already talked about volume 1 in my previous wrap-ups. All I can tell you is that if you like the Olympians or story about Olympians, you will enjoy this book here. It's really adventurous. It's a quick read. You can read it in one day. At least I read mine in about a day or 2. So yeah, I highly recommend if you're up for an adventure. I am enjoying this series and plan on continuing it. The next book series that I read is a manga series called Number 6, and this manga series is about a boy named Shion. You meet him when he is 12 years old, and he is part of this elite society living in this utopian city called Number 6. He lives the ideal lifestyle of where and how people want to live. And the problem is that one day Shion encounters another boy around his same age, around 12. But the problem is this boy escaped from a correctional facility, and Shion takes him in and kind of gives him shelter and feeds him. And the problem is that Shion does not report him right away to the authorities, and this gets Shion in a lot of trouble, so much trouble that he gets removed from his elite status and ranking and has to live on the outskirts of Number 6. Some things happen where Shion is eventually forced to flee the utopian city and live in outside the walls of the city, and then he meets up with his long lost, well, I don't want to say friend because they weren't friends at that time, but the boy that he ended up sheltering many years ago. He ends up meeting up with him, and as the series progresses, they learn more about Number 6, that Number 6 isn't the utopian city that they were kind of forced to believe, and that there's a lot of dark and sinister things going on in the background. So yeah, I enjoyed the series. Some books were 3 stars, most books were 4 stars. I plan on continuing it. I think I have 3 volumes left, and I am curious how it's going to end. So I do plan on continuing it. Not the best manga series I've read, but definitely one where I want to see how it's going to end. And the last book that I read for January is The Infinite Seas by Ricky Yancey. That's the 2nd volume to the 5th wave. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. The only problem for me is that it was really dark and depressing, but it was a good story. You get to see the other perspective from other characters' eyes, and it was exciting to see that, kind of learn more about the other characters. And it is a little bit heartbreaking and sad and dire, but I am looking forward to reading the 3rd volume because I want to see how it ends. I want to see if there's a light at the end of the tunnel for these group of people that we've come to know. So yeah, that concludes my January wrap up. Please let me know what your favorite book for January that you read down in the comments below. And other than that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Hey everyone, it's CL, and I wanted to do a spur of the moment video. It's a response video to Richard Denny, who is a booktuber, and he posted just recently a very interesting discussion topic of being too old to read middle grade books.